Ever find yourself like rereading emails to your boss a million times before sending? Or just feeling this weird vibe at work, like everyone's walking on eggshells, but you can't quite put your finger on why?
Oh, I know that feeling.
We're diving deep into that today with passive aggressive leadership. A bunch of you requested this one.
Good pick. It's one of those things, so many people deal with it at some point, and it can be really tough to deal with.
For real. So you sent over this blog post by Coach Dane, a leadership coach, and it was spot on. He talks about this company, right, where on paper things seem okay, meetings are happening, work's getting done, but there's this.
This underlying current.
Yeah, like everyone's kind of holding their breath,
Mm.
low energy, people hesitant to speak up, and the results are just kind of eh.
Right, and that's what Coach Dane calls a toxic environment. Although it doesn't always feel toxic, right?
Yeah.
It's more subtle, more insidious.
How so? What does that actually feel like day to day?
Well, it's not like this big blow-up fight kind of toxic.
Yeah.
It's more like this constant tension. You're second-guessing everything, not sure if you should speak up.
Because you don't know what's going to set them off.
Exactly. And it's that uncertainty that really gets to you. It just kind of sucks the air out of the room and makes people afraid to be creative or take risks.
Which, as Coach Dane points out, tanks creativity and collaboration in the long run. So he calls this passive-aggressive leadership, and he gives some really specific examples. Like, you'll get these backhanded compliments disguised as jokes.
Oh, yeah, the classic, well, at least you tried.
Ugh, the worst. Or they'll forget to copy you on an important email chain or give you these insane deadlines that are impossible to meet. It's wild because it's not big, dramatic stuff. It's the little things, right?
Exactly. And because they're so subtle, they can be hard to call out. Like, how do you go to your boss and say, hey, I felt really hurt when you said my presentation was surprisingly good?
Right. It makes you feel crazy for even bringing it up.
Exactly. Which is why it's so important to have strategies for dealing with this stuff.
And thankfully, Coach Dane doesn't just leave us hanging with the problem. He offers a solution which he calls active, supportive leadership. And what I find so interesting is that it's not just the opposite of being passive-aggressive, it's something else entirely.
Right? It's not about being aggressive at all. It's about being direct, but in a way that's also kind and respectful. It's about creating a space where everyone feels safe to share their ideas, give feedback, and ask questions without fear of,
Repercussions.
exactly.
Yeah.
So think things like clear expectations, making sure everyone has the information they need, and giving genuine recognition when it's deserved.
He tells this story about a leader who was like the biggest skeptic of this whole approach. He thought being direct would make him unpopular.
Oh, I know the type.
But then he tries it, and guess what? His team's engagement and productivity go through the roof.
Because people actually thrive on that clarity and honesty.
Totally. When you know where you stand and feel heard, you're way more likely to be engaged and do your best work. So for those listening who are maybe in a leadership position or dealing with this dynamic with their own boss, what are some practical takeaways? Like, what can you actually do?
Well, it all starts with awareness, like being able to spot the signs of passive-aggressive leadership and understand how it's impacting you and the team. Once you have that awareness, you can start to set boundaries and advocate for yourself.
Right. It's not about blaming anyone or calling them out, but more about empowering yourself in those situations.
Exactly. And if you are in a leadership role, Coach Dane has some great tips in his blog about how to cultivate that active, supportive style, like having regular check-ins with your team, asking for feedback, and just being really transparent in your communication. It all adds up.
I love that. Even small changes can make a big difference.
And that's something we can all remember, no matter what our role is. The way we choose to show up, even in small moments, has a ripple effect on the people around us.
So true. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, definitely check out Coach Dane's blog. It's amazing how much of a difference a few tweaks in communication can make.